This right here is a technical survival world with over 2000 days. And as you can see, it has a lot of farms. Some really good and others, well, meh, but today I'm going to tell you about the best and worst farms in all of Minecraft. But to make it more interesting, we're going to organize them by showing a bad farm and then a good farm. So let's start with the Wither Skeleton Farm. The Wither Skeleton Farm is bad precisely because it's very complicated to build and requires a lot of materials, which isn't very advisable since this farm only gives us wither skeleton skulls and bones, which let's say aren't very useful. In general, this farm requires a lot of time and patience to build, and it's really not worth it at all. I'd only suggest building it if you have an advanced technical world and nothing else to do. And even then, believe me, you'll build it and completely forget you have it since you won't use it. But anyway, let's continue with the gold farm. Without a doubt, it's a farm that's essential in your world if you want to progress, since this farm gives a huge amount of experience, which is perfect for enchanting our armor and tools, not to mention the huge amount of gold this farm gives us, which we can use to do a lot of things. It would be one of the few farms I would recommend you build as soon as you start your world because I know it's really good. The only negative thing, let's say, would be the materials, because they can be very hard for some people to get. If you manage to build it, you'll have one of the best farms, which you'll use for a very long time. Now then, there's the Froglight farm. Does anyone really build this farm? The Froglight farm, as its name suggests, will only be useful for getting light blocks. Let's say it's a relatively difficult farm to build due to certain circumstances and also because of how much of a total waste of time building this farm is. Since personally, I consider the Froglight block to be pretty horrible. In fact, I have this farm in my own technical world and I can tell you that I've only used it to get the achievement. So, in summary, it's not worth spending our materials and our time on this farm since it's really not worth it at all. I'd only suggest it if you want the achievement. Trust me, you'll never use it again after that. One of the best farms in all of Minecraft is coming up, and that's the raid farm. Without a doubt, one of the best farms we can have in our world is this one. It produces one of the best items in the game, which is the Totem of Undying. You can also get a lot of enchanted books and above all a ton of emeralds. And the best part is that this farm is very cheap and easy to build, letting us build it early in our world. And believe me, it's totally worth it since you'll be using it for as long as your survival lasts. Now let's continue with the Enderman farm. The Enderman farm can be very useful and a great option for a technical world because of the amount of emeralds it generates and for the ender pearls. But I decided to list this farm as a bad one since there are better and easier options to make. And not only that, you also have the chance of losing all your stuff since you can fall into the void. I'm not saying this is a bad farm, on the contrary. I recommend building it, but later on when you already have elytras, so that way we can avoid any kind of accident. Now, if we continue with the witch farm, I'll just say that it's one of the most commonly built farms by experienced players, since this farm is the only one in the game capable of producing redstone. And as everyone in the technical world already knows, redstone is the best of the best. And this farm can also produce other things, but they're not as valuable, so to speak. In fact, this farm is very easy to build since you don't need a lot of materials. The only tricky part would be finding the witch hut, but there's nothing that chunk base can't fix. And with this, you can make one of the best technical farms at the start of your world since it's very cheap to build, right? And it will help you create many more farms. Okay? Let's continue with the slime farm. Definitely one of the most time-consuming, expensive, and above all, complicated farms to make in the technical world. Not to mention that for this farm, we need a huge amount of materials, a lot of them. And above all, and most importantly, you need to have a lot of patience and be an experienced player. Unfortunately, I don't have either of those since building this farm is very simple. The only thing you have to do is mine an entire chunk, but don't think it's that easy with just any chunk. No, you have to look it up on chunk base, right? The specific chunk should be one where slimes spawn and that's it. Now you can start building your slime farm, and as the name suggests, this farm will only produce slime, which we are going to use to make sticky pistons and slime blocks. So, in summary, I'll just tell you that I recommend building it if you're an experienced player or if you have nothing else left to do. Honestly, because mining out an entire chunk, let's just say it's not fun, but oh well. Let's continue with the next farm, the armor farm, which is very recent. With this farm, we can get really good armor and even tools with great enchantments, including protection of Fu, making it very useful. The best part is this farm is easy to make, needing few materials, and can be built early in your world. This way, you can get great armor and gear without even going mining. The only thing that may take time is finding the trial chamber, since you can only build the farm there. And I almost almost forgot, but you can also get a really good amount of experience in this farm, and believe me, you're going to use it very often. The creeper farm has always been very popular among technical players, but the downside of this farm is that it's very complicated to build, time-consuming, and stressful. Basically, this farm produces gunpowder, which is mainly used for rockets. That's why it's the favorite of many technical players. But the reason why I consider it bad is because of the huge amount of materials you need. In order for it to produce well, it absolutely has to be massive. And personally, I think it's a better option to invest all those materials in a mob farm, since it's going to give me a lot more things to do. A simple creeper farm? I've mostly seen this farm in the worlds of experienced technical players because of how complicated it can be to build. So, as a recommendation, I'd tell you that instead of investing all those materials in a simple creeper farm, you should use them to build a massive mob farm. Trust me, it'll give you more experience than you expect. And finally, we have the iron farm, which is without a doubt the best of all the farms. Basically, it's the best because of how easy it is to make and how useful it is. And above all, it's a farm that we will always use. No matter how far we progress, we will always use it, because this farm produces iron, which I would say gets even more use than diamond. And it's very versatile, since we can also have our trading hall in this farm, because remember that villagers are absolutely necessary. So for this and much more, without a doubt. And the best farm in all of Minecraft above many others, it's the iron farm, since absolutely every player has an iron farm. If you don't have one yet, I don't know what you're waiting for to build it. Anyway, here's how the farms would look. It's worth noting that obviously I know I missed a lot more farms to add, like sugarcane, cactus, bamboo, and so on. But I think that all the farms I mentioned earlier are the most common among technical players and casual players in their survival worlds. And finally, I want you to know that I'm going to put all the real links to the farms in the description of this video, so you can make them too if you want. But honestly, I need to know if anyone actually makes the Froglight farm, and that's it. That would be all for today. It's worth pointing out that this is just a personal opinion from a player with over 10 years of experience, so obviously you can make whatever farm you want, right? All I gave you were some recommendations, but anyway, I hope it helps you, and with that said, bye.